Welcome to the February edition of the Power Platform and Dynamics 365 Technical Update Briefing. We'll be covering topics around Power Platform, Dynamics 365 Customer Engagement Apps, and Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations. If you do have questions, please ask them via the Q&A chat panel available in the meeting. The slide deck will be available for download, and we'll also have the recording of the webcast available on our blog after the session. My name is Ryan Sandness, and I'm a Senior Customer Engineer working with Finance and Operations apps. I'll be answering the Finance and Operations Q&A for us today. Presenting the Finance and Operations content for us is Senior Customer Engineer Tom Stumpf. With that, I'll hand this over to Madan to introduce the D365 Customer Engagement Apps folks hosting the call for us today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Hey, everybody, this is Madan Sampath. I'm a Senior Customer Engineer as well on Power Platform and Dynamics 365. Myself, along with Ryan Sandness, will be the moderators of this session. We'll also be answering the questions on the chat panel on the right side. Presenting the content here on the Customer Engagement Apps is Ryan Anderson. We'll be talking on the Power Platform and Customer Engineer side of things. And we also have Tom Stumpf, also Customer Engineer for Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations Apps. He'll be doing the presentation portion for the Finance and Operations portion of Dynamics 365. As I mentioned, we'll be answering questions as we go, so don't hesitate to post questions as we go. We have 4 people here, so while Ryan and Tom are talking, Ryan Anderson and Tom are talking, Ryan Sandness and I will be answering questions that comes up. So feel free to ask questions as we go. With that, I'll hand it over to Ryan Anderson to kick it off.
All right, thanks, Madan. So we'll get started with the technical update briefing. We'll cover some featured news first around Power Platform and Dynamics 365. So just wanted to make everyone aware of all the different on-demand events that are available that you can go out and review. I think all of these are on demand. We'll have other upcoming events that we'll definitely announce as we go here, but the Powerful Devs Conference that's available to view on YouTube. The Microsoft Biz Apps sessions, that's all on demand. Obviously, that covers everything in the Biz Apps world, Dynamics and Power Platform. Microsoft Ignite is also on demand. That covers, of course, all the different Microsoft technologies, not just Biz Apps, but again, everything is on demand. So make sure you're aware of those and making use of those and getting all the latest information that was announced at those different sessions. Also wanted to mention in the as a featured item, the 2022 Release Wave 1. This was announced in January and is a kind of the typical process of our different release waves across Power Platform and Dynamics 365. This covers all Dynamics 365 products. So whether it's on the customer engagement side, such as the sales or customer service app, also finance and ops and everything else. So definitely be aware of this. Like I mentioned, January 25th was when this was first released. There are 2 different release wave plans, one for Power Platform and the other for Dynamics. So make sure you're taking a look at both of those. In February, the early access features became available, and so you can actually go into your different areas on the Power Platform side into the Power Platform Admin Center and turn on those early access features and start using those. Again, we recommend definitely doing that in the sandbox environment first, but that is available. Also in February, the release notes will start coming out in different languages too, if you're waiting for that. And then in April, it'll be the general availability of all the different features coming in Wave 1. Typically, that rolls out across the different regions on different dates. And so depending on what region you are in, you'll get that at different times. I believe in North America, if you have a North America-based environment, that's coming more towards the end of April rather than the beginning. But you can always turn that stuff on earlier as well. And then just to cover a little more on the timeline of the release wave here. So as you can see, if you're looking at the slide here, right now we're going towards the end of February, so we're still in that early access phase. The release waves cover a large amount of time, so it's not always just a one kind of big bang approach as far as when the new features roll out. So you can see that the 2022 release wave 1 covers all that time between April and October. So if you're looking at a feature in the different waves, that feature, it may be there right at the beginning in April, but it may not, and it may be coming later through the summer or even into the fall. So make sure you're kind of looking at that. And then, of course, at the end of 2022, the release wave 2 will get announced. That comes in October, and we'll get a fresh set of release plans with the different features that are coming in release wave 2. So just be aware of those dates and kind of keep watching for that. These release waves have a lot of features available in them. So depending on what parts of the whole environment you're using, if you're using different Dynamics 365 apps or different parts of the Power Platform, those features may be more important to you. So just be aware of all those different timelines. Okay, so let's jump into some service updates, and we'll cover the things on the Power Platform and the customer engagement apps here first. One thing we wanted to mention is you do have the ability now to manage your maintenance window in the Power Platform Admin Center. This was in preview, I believe it's in GA now, but you can go there and select a maintenance window time. This is available only for your production environment. So if you happen to be looking at a sandbox environment, you're not going to see this. So make sure you're looking at a production environment and you can choose that maintenance time. Only the database and application updates are delivered in this maintenance window. So just be aware of that. And all the other platform updates will continue to be executed based on the region specific times. And there's a good article there that kind of goes through everything. But you can choose the maintenance window that you'd like through the Power Platform Admin Center now. Just a bit more on the release waves. Like I said, the current release wave is now the 2022 release wave 1. There's different collateral available for that. Like I mentioned, there are those different release plans that you can look at. Both some are in an online state, but you can also download a PDF. There's a good article to look at the release schedule. So if you're wondering, when that's going to be rolled out to your environment, you can take a look at that. Also, you have the option to opt in on that early access. So you can go turn the wave on in any environment early if you'd like. The general availability, like I mentioned, comes in April, and that's typical. We have 2 waves each year, and so this will be the April. And then we'll have the wave 2 later in the year. And to stay informed on this, make sure that you're using the message center notifications, and you can there's a link there on how to do that. And you can also set up email notifications to admins using PowerShell, and there's a link there to see how to do that. So make sure you download the slides here from the blog so you get all those links as well. A bit more on the current Wave 1 plan. There's tons of different features that are available in the plan. So we're definitely not going to go through all of those on this call. Just know that they're divided up into different categories. So as you kind of go through the release wave, you can kind of drill into the areas that are most important to you, whether that be on the Dataverse side or Power Apps or portals. Even on the Pro Developer, or if you're looking more on the data integration, all that's available to kind of drill into those different categories, and you can do all that like I mentioned on the online site, or you can download that PDF to read through everything as well. And then again, it is kind of divided up. There is the one release plan for Power Platform. There's the other one for Dynamics. I believe if you download the Dynamics PDF now, everything is included in there because there was some confusion. But in general, they're divided by category. So if you're using the sales app, you want to look there. Customer service, look there. So just be aware of that. And again, there's lots of features behind all these. We're not going to go through them on the call today. If you are interested in those, we are doing some podcasts that kind of go through those features in a little more detail. And so we'll get that link posted as well as where you can find that. Okay, so kind of outside of the release waves, we wanted to talk a little bit about the deprecations as we normally do during this session. Again, there's a good article that goes through all of these deprecations that you'll want to be aware of, and there's a link there in the slide. In February, there's a few deprecations. Support for viewing and managing application users in that legacy web client is going to be deprecated. So things are moving towards UCI and the modern client. Support for Microsoft 365 groups and Yammer is deprecated also here in February. In April, there's kind of a big one. The WS Trust Organization Service Proxy Authentication type is shut down in April. And so if you're using this, you should be already getting some notifications coming through the message center around this. And so you'll want to make sure that you are aware of that and move off of that. Also, a few of the model-driven app controls are deprecated. So if you had some of those controls that were some of the older ones that maybe you've used early on, take a look at that. The flip switched calendar control, linear slider, some of those kind of things are going to be retired. In October, some client APIs are deprecated and retired. That one is the client global context.js.aspx. So if you're using that, you want to be aware. And then in November, the Dataverse OData version 2.0 service removal and the data export service reaches the end of life. So on that one, if you're using that, you'll want to be aware and possible move over to that Azure Synapse link for Dataverse instead. Okay, a few more topics a few more items on the service update topic. You know, kind of each one of the different pieces of the platform has its own updates. And so just wanted to make you aware of that. Not going to go through all the details on each one of these updates, but be aware that they are, you know, constantly being updated, and you can use the links on these slides to go view the latest information and also get an idea of how to check your version number in these different areas, such as in Dataverse now, we're on service update 22013. And that, again, those are just automatically deployed going forward. On the Dynamics side, the different Dynamics apps also have different updates. And so be aware of that if you're using those apps. The cadence can be a little bit different on these depending on what app you're using. So again, you can use the links here to see the latest version availability depending on what app you're using. Power Apps and Power Automate, kind of the same thing. You can take a look at your latest version, see what updates are available in your region, and which ones are applied. Again, you can use the links on that slide to do that. Power Automate Desktop, if you're using this, there is a January 2022 update available. Typically, this is the updates here coming monthly, but as of today, the February hasn't been released, but the January 2022 release is available. So you can check that out and see what new features and updates are available with that. This team also does a really good job keeping their blog updated with these latest features. So make sure to check out that link if you can. Power Apps Portals, same thing, updates here. If you're using portals, make sure you're aware of these updates. Some are automatically applied. Others you will need to do some manual work. So keep track of the Power Apps Portals updates as well. And then on the Power BI side, both on the Power BI desktop and the Power BI service, there's some updates available as well. Make sure on the desktop side, typically those are coming on a monthly basis where you can download and update your desktop application, and then new updates coming on the Power BI service as well. If you're using Dynamics 365, the on-prem product, there are still updates being made available on the version 9 and 9.1 versions of that. So for version 9.1 and 9.0, there's January 2022 updates that you can apply. These are cumulative, so you don't have to do each one. You can apply the latest and you'll get all the things before it. On the CRM 8.2 version, that is out of mainstream support, so we're not doing updates monthly anymore. Anything that would come now would be more of a security or a, something critical type update, but you won't see any new features there or new updates on a monthly basis anyway. Okay, that takes us through Power Platform and customer engagement apps. I'm going to turn it over to Tom to cover the F&O side.
Great, thanks, Ryan. So if we move to the next slide here, we'll talk about service update availability for finance and operations. Perfect. So the latest generally available version is currently 10.0.24. There were no releases in February. The next release is 10.0.25, which is scheduled for March 18th. So 10.0.25 is currently available in the Preview Early Access program. So if you're interested in taking a look at that, there's a link provided here of how to join the Preview Early Access program. And just a note here too that, as always, service updates, you can be up to 3 versions behind as you plan out your release schedule. And quality updates are only available for the current version and one previous version. So just to reiterate, the next release, March 18th, and that's 10.0.25. So if we can move to the next slide. So with each release or each version, we have features that are either brand new or moving from one state to the next. So when new features come in, they usually end up being in a preview state, and then they'll move from preview into general availability. And then once they've been generally available for a while, they'll move to a state where the feature is turned on by default. And then eventually the feature becomes mandatory. So what I want to do real quickly here is highlight a few things. The 2 things that are most likely to catch people off guard are the one when you have something moving to on by default or mandatory. So I'll just highlight a couple here. So if you take the list, I'll just highlight a couple here. One with respect to email throttling. So this feature allows non-interactive email providers to adhere to a per minute email sending limit, which will prevent errors from getting generated when the system sends more emails than that provider can handle. So that's a great feature, and that is moving from moving into a mandatory status. So that throttling will happen. The other one I want to highlight here is that with 10.0.25, Internet Explorer can no longer be used. So previously, if you were using Internet Explorer, you would have seen kind of a warning message. Now Internet Explorer will not actually work anymore. So there are others here. Feel free to take a look at them, but I just wanted to highlight a couple. So if we move to the next slide. Perfect. So that was we just talked about features moving to a mandatory state. The ones that are moving from moving into an enabled by default status are listed here. And what that means is it's enabled by default, but you can still turn them off until they become mandatory. I'll just highlight a couple of items here real quick. So one item, it's the ability to change the batch size for Excel. So if you're working in Excel and you're publishing changes to finance and operations, it publishes those changes in batches. The system administrator can now control the size of that batch. So if you have users with a maybe a smaller network pipe or something like that, you can throttle that batch size down so that it doesn't end up coming in as large of chunks. So that's a system administration feature that's moving to on by default. There are a couple of other ones that are related to saved views. And a saved view, just to recap, we've talked about that before, but basically it's the ability to customize how you see certain screens. And then you can add new fields, move things around, and then give it a name, right? So when you give it a name, then you can go and say, this is how I want to go view the data. Now we're providing you the ability to save a translation for that, so it can be seen in. So if you share that saved view with somebody else who maybe has a different default language, then you can have a translation for them so they see it in their own language. And then the other thing related to saved views is the ability to set the default user experience by legal entity. So if you're operating in one company and you like to see data a certain way, but if you're operating in a separate legal entity or company, you can see the data in a different way based on the context that you're in. So just a couple of items I wanted to highlight here. The full list is provided, and feel free to take a look on your own. All right, and I'll hand it back over to Ryan to talk about some product updates.
All right, thanks, Tom. Let's jump into the Power Platform and customer engagement apps side of things here. So this first one we wanted to mention was around the ALM accelerator for Power Platform. So this is something new as part of the Center of Excellence, or COE starter kit. ALM typically has a pretty large learning curve and it takes a lot of time to get this set up correctly. And so based on our learnings setting up ALM, we're announcing this ALM accelerator for Power Platform. So there's a great video available that shows kind of how to set this up, and also the blog, and then also there's the Center of Excellence starter kit that you can take a look at. The ALM accelerator it includes a Canvas app that sits on top of Azure DevOps pipelines and Git source control. And the app provides a simplified interface for makers to export the components of their Power Platform solutions to source control and create deployment requests to have their work reviewed before deploying to target environments. So it's a great way to kind of kickstart that ALM process for you and try to get that set up so you don't have to kind of start from scratch and invest all that time. So definitely take a look at that. Once ALM is set up in an environment, it has great benefits. So really encourage everyone to take a look at that. The next one is a new content site, adoption.microsoft.com, and this includes Power Platform adoption. And so if you're looking to accelerate adoption of the Power Platform across your business, this site has great resources for you. If you're a technology manager or a Power Platform champion, and trying to roll this out into your organization or your team, lots of good resources out here to get your team started and engaged and trained up, and even govern on your environments. So if there's struggling with getting that adoption in your environment, definitely take a look at this new site. Lots of great resources out there. Okay, back over to you, Tom, for the finance and ops side.
All right, great. So our first topic is finance and operations build automation. So we talked about this a bit in January. I just wanted to bring it back in for the February edition because there's a deadline coming in March. So the breaking changes related to finance and operations build pipelines that use the Microsoft hosted agent is the core topic here. The deadline is March 15th. So basically, if you're using a Microsoft hosted agent, you will have to update your agent from the default of Visual Studio 2017, Windows 2016 to the later version. Otherwise, your build pipeline will stop working. So Again, we talked about that in January. I just wanted to bring it back up because that deadline is approaching. Next slide. All right. So here we have a new feature related to finance, and it's new vendor invoice data entity for OCR integration. So a couple of things here. The first thing is that there's actually a lot of features related to the use of OCR for vendor invoices that are hitting general availability or preview between now and October. So one of the first OCR features to GA in this release wave is the new vendor invoice data entity. This data entity will help simplify the process of importing vendor invoices into finance and ops by consolidating data from multiple existing data entities into a single one. This will help reduce the likelihood of any sort of data inconsistencies. It should help improve performance, and it will also make it possible to add new functionality to the import process with new features down the road. So this data entity is currently in public preview and is scheduled to GA in April. Next slide. Okay, on to a supply chain management feature, inventory allocation for the inventory visibility add-in. So the inventory visibility add-in is a microservice that provides inventory information. And this feature is basically meant to help businesses with how they allocate inventory. So businesses are constantly experiencing fluctuating inventory levels, especially when they're running a sales promotion or experiencing supply shortages, for example. So the inventory allocation feature for the inventory visibility add-in allows you to create virtual inventory pools so that you can ensure inventory is allocated across your channels, how it works best for your business, instead of just using, say, a first come, first serve allocation policy. So kind of a great way to make sure that if you've got VIP customers or different channels that you have to ensure that you have inventory for, this would be a great way to do that. Next slide. Okay, on to intelligent order management. So a couple of things here coming in April. An expanded list of providers for the ecosystem. I'll just highlight a couple here. From an order intake perspective, we have out-of-box support now for, or will have out-of-box support for BigCommerce. From a delivery provider perspective, ShipStation and tax service, Avalara. So great to see new providers being supported out of box, and I'm sure this will continue with additional ones in the future. All right, and I'll transition back over to Ryan for the Learning Corner.
All right, thanks, Tom. Get to the next slide here. Okay, so on the Learning Corner today, we have a few different, mostly blog articles that are covering some different areas. The first one is around Power Apps Portal, and this one was put together by one of our colleagues, Kurt Reynolds, and it's around customizing Power Apps Portal and setting child record values from the parent record. So as you can see, if you're the use case is kind of around designing a Power Apps Portal, and you have a form and a subgrid and a create button. And when the record is created, you want to pre-populate some of those values from the parent record. So this takes you through that process and how to be able to do that. There's a really good video here that goes through those the details on the solution and how to do it. The video is linked there to the blog article, and then it's also posted on our YouTube channel. So if you're using Power Apps Portals, definitely take a look at that. I think Kurt also did 2 or 3 other articles as well. So there's a few out there now there is as part of our YouTube channel, there's a Power Apps Portals channel, I guess, that has all those in there. So make sure you take a look at those if you're using Portals. The next one here is another blog article around client-side programming best practices. This was written by Ben Merrill, who's another one of our colleagues. This is around getting a value from the Dynamics 365 CE API with async await. This one, kind of the main point of this one is we're trying to get away from using sync requests, especially on the client side forms. Sync requests are notorious for causing performance issues, causing the whole form to wait and be locked for a certain amount of time until whatever process that's calling completes. And so if we can get away from those sync calls, the overall performance of that form is going to be better. And so this is another way to do that, and using the async await keywords. And a different pattern on how to do that. So if you do have sync requests in your client-side forms, take a look at this and see if maybe you can use this new pattern as an async method to get that get the same process or same functionality done, and it should help improve the overall performance of your forms. The next one is a customer story around using Power Automate, AI Builder, and this one is really around using that AI Builder and AI models to optimize your business processes and getting those insights out of the data that you may already have. This is another article that goes through that whole process. The AI Builder public documentation is a great place to start and learn about the sentiment analysis in AI Builder, and so how you can take all that data you have, like from emails, from support tickets, from social media, and use that AI Builder to kind of crunch all that data and get the sentiment. And this goes through, there's a learning guide here that goes through on how to build that and get that sentiment analysis model developed, so you can kind of get a better idea of what your customers are feeling and seeing and saying across different avenues there on how they're communicating with you. And then one more customer story. This one is around RPA, robotic process automation, and Power Automate. As Power Automate is used for that. There's a great article here. This is more of a business leader's guide on RPA and how to migrate from an existing RPA legacy solution over to a more modern RPA solution. So if you have a legacy RPA solution that's siloed or difficult to scale, this article kind of goes through on how you can best migrate off of that to a different modern RPA solution, such as Microsoft Power Automate for desktop. So take a look at that to get best practices and new features in that RPA migration and Power Automate for desktop in general. All right, and with that, I'll send it back over to you, Tom.
Thanks, Ryan. So I just wanted to highlight a few recent blogs produced by the team here. First one here is Todd talking about the new beta portal for Dynamics 365 and Power Platform release plans. And this basically it provides a new way of looking at upcoming features, things that are in the plan, things that are coming soon, and things that have recently released. So it's a little easier to navigate, when you're looking at things from a timeline perspective. So feel free to go out and take a look at it. It's still beta, but it does help kind of organize things from a timeline perspective for you. So Todd does a good job of highlighting that. Syed had some tips for you around restoring your production database to a cloud-hosted environment. That's the second one that was published the end of January. And then Kenneth added another another blog post around consolidating purchase requisitions. So part 1 of his series talked about how to do this manually. He added one now to help cover basically doing it via batch to automate things. So a few different articles here recently from the customer engineers on the finance and operations side that would be worth taking a look at. Next slide. All right, so we have a ton of new Fast Track Tech Talk content that's coming out in the near future. So you can see here we've got topics on HR, costing, a bunch of different topics here. February 24th through March 29th is what's showing here. So definitely go out and take a look at this list and sign up for those to catch those tech talks. Next slide. All right. So if you've maybe haven't been able to join some of the tech talks recently live, you can certainly go back, and those tech talks are recorded and then posted here. So if you, just to highlight a few here, there's a series on commerce extensions. We're already on part 6. So if you're really into understanding how commerce extensions are designed, how to do it, that's a great series to take a look at. There's another one around project operations, deployment options and scenarios. That was from February 2nd and 3rd. And then one final one here that I wanted to highlight, it was almost a month ago, but wasn't available to talk about in our last update briefing. So the new capabilities enabled with finance and operations convergence with the Power Platform. So that's a great one to go out and look. All of these are posted out on, you can click on the link on this slide in order to go check it out. But we've got 9 posted so far from the beginning of the year. All right, and that's all I have. Ryan, back to you.
All right, thanks, Tom. So just to wrap up, there's a few more links on the slide here. If you want to get the deck and the recording of this webcast, you can go to aka.ms/powerplatformtub. All the collateral will be linked there. I think most of the things are up there, and we'll get the recording out there as soon as possible as well. You can find us at Twitter on Twitter at PFE Dynamics if you have any further questions. Otherwise, we thank everyone for joining today. Appreciate it. We'll be back next month with another technical update briefing. So thanks everyone for joining.